Welcome back to the Pigskin Cafe. Thanks for taking time out of your day to listen to this episode. And we've got some hot takes on college football. The season it's already here, but we're dealing with this weird kind of it started, but week one still hasn't happened yet. And so today we want to talk about matchups that are coming week one. But before we do that, Hampton, there's already been college football that's been played. Some of us have had the itch scratched. But I'll be honest, it's still itching a little bit. There were games that were played. We got a little bit of some good matchups. We got one team, not that we'll get into this. We got FAMU that hardly had enough players to play. Didn't even know that until almost day of. But we had a week zero, had some interesting matchups. Do you mind breaking that down for us before we take into what week one of college football is going to look like?
I'd be happy to, Chase, and I'm with you, man. I am excited for week one of college football. We are recording this on a Wednesday night, and as of this time tomorrow, the Backyard Brawl will be back and will be on our television. I, for one, cannot wait to see those Take Me Home Country Road uniforms that West Virginia is wearing. Going to be a fun game, fun atmosphere, and a great way to kick off college football officially. But like you said, Chase, week zero, we had a couple matchups that happened over the weekend. Vandy, the Commodores and pride of the SEC, traveled to Hawaii, got down 7-0, and said, so what? We're going to go on a 63-3 run.
Insane.
Rushed for over 400 yards. Mike Wright, I believe is his name.
Yep.
Remember the name, Mike Wright.
Remember the name. I about called him Mike White instead of Mike Wright. So I just want to make sure. Mike Wright had a great debut as the Vanderbilt quarterback, threw for about 150 yards, added some on the ground. Very impressive performance by the Commodores. Clark Lee has those guys looking right in year two under his leadership, and I was very impressed with them. I know it's Hawaii, but when's the last time Vandy scored 63 points and rushed for over 400 yards? So, Graham, you should have bet that over, man, on that win total, because I think Vandy is going to achieve that. So, shout out to the Commodores for doing great in week zero against Hawaii. And then the other big storyline from week zero is the man who's the complete opposite and antithesis of his name, Scott Frost, because that seat ain't frosty. It's boiling hot, man. And it goes back to last year. He is now 0-10 in one-score games over the past 2 years. And here's a stat for you. Scott Frost is now 15-30 at Nebraska. Bo Pelini was fired for going 67-27. If Frost wins his next 50 games in a row, he would still have a worse record than Bo Pelini. What a disaster. What another blown opportunity in coaching by Scott Frost. You're up 28-17. You try to kick an onside kick for some unbeknownst reason, and you never regain that momentum. Your players start to doubt because they've been in that situation, close game. They don't get the job done, and they lose to Northwestern. And now the calls for his job get louder, and that Oklahoma game looms large. I believe it's September 17th. If he gets embarrassed in that one, might want to pack his bags and look for rental property elsewhere, maybe in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, as an offensive assistant. But
can I chime in just for a second?
Go ahead.
His buyout decreases by millions of dollars, and I can't remember what the date is. It might be October.
It's after that game.
Yeah.
I think it's after that game.
Here's the thing: is it really comes down to, is Nebraska going to say, "Hey, we're better than that. It's worth the buyout," or are they just going to, hey, this season's also an L? Just kind of shows. I mean, like you said, you talk about Bo Pelini. It's like, man, I mean, time to hit a big reset if we're headed down that road again. But just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. And even though they lost the game, I do want to highlight Casey Thompson played really well for the first
half,
3 quarters, 2.5 quarters. Then he completely fell apart. Trey Palmer on the outside, LSU transfer, showed some promise along with some other receivers they had. But they got stagnant in the second half, and after that onside kick, it just kind of, I don't know, it looked like it broke the team. They were out They were dominated at the point of attack. I mean, Northwestern ran all over them. And I want to give a shout out to Ryan Helinski, Northwestern quarterback, played a really, really good game. So, Scott Frost, time is ticking. But enough of that, enough of week 0 and looking back. Let's look ahead to week 1 of college football. We're going to preview 3 matchups today and then pick 3 other ones. And the first matchup is one of the marquee ones of the weekend. We've got Oregon and Georgia playing in Atlanta, the Ducks versus the Bulldogs. Graham, I want to start with you, man. What is your key to this game, and who are you going to ultimately pick to win it?
Well, I'm glad to be joining you guys again. I haven't been able to put much input in so far, but I'm not going to point fingers either direction.
Well, you are in the middle, so.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Man, this is going to be an exciting game. I mean, you look at a team in Georgia that lost a lot from last year, but they are the reigning national champions of college football. Yeah, undisputed national champions of college football thanks to the college football playoff. And the thing that makes this, game even more exciting is that Oregon's new head coach, Dan Lanning, was defensive coordinator for the Bulldogs last year. The thing that I'm excited to watch is Oregon's defense. I think a lot of people are going to talk about Bo Nix going from Auburn to Oregon. He's familiar with the Georgia Bulldogs, but to me, it's going to be fun to watch this Oregon defense. You've got 2 great linebackers in Justin Flo and Noah Sewell that really lead a really underrated defensive unit for the Ducks. I think. I think with Dan Lanning at the helm, you're going to see the identity of Oregon change from what it has been over the last, I'd say, 20 years, which has been we're gonna run a race. Whoever gets there, whoever gets to the finish line first wins, and that's going to be to 60 points. I think Dan Lanning is going to swap that mentality. Every possession's going to matter. Every play's going to matter. Turnovers are going to be essential.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts off with a pretty decent unit with 2 5-stars in Noah Sewell and Justin Flo for that unit. Man, I'm excited to watch that. I'm excited to see how they match up against this Georgia offense. Because who would have thought that the Georgia offense from last year could be better? I mean, I definitely think there was, some room for improvement. But after you win the national championship, you're not supposed to get better the next year. But I think this offensive unit can. And the fact you return your starting quarterback, Stetson Bennett, you have probably the most dominant, unit in college football in the tight end room at Georgia. You've got 3 of the best tight ends in college football. And, you lost, Pickens on the outside. You lost 2 great running backs in James Cook and Zamir White. But Kenny McIntosh is a guy that has been there and done that for Georgia playing running back. And I think that his experience and this Georgia offense actually having some guys come over from last year, I think they're actually going to be better on the offensive side of the ball. So I think it leads to a really, really fun matchup. And Chase, I want to bring you back into this. Go ahead, Hampton. Go ahead.
Hold on, Graham. Who you picking?
Who am I
you
picking?
Yeah, man.
We got to get into this so quick. I'm going with Georgia. I think the spread is
I think it's 17.
17.
Yeah.
17. I think it's probably closer than that because I just don't see it being a 50-30 game. I don't. So I'm gonna go with the with the Bulldogs, but I think it's probably gonna be 10 to 14 points. I think it's gonna be one of those things where Georgia and Oregon are close in the fourth quarter. I think Georgia's just gonna be able to wear them down just a little bit and take this one home, especially since they're playing in Atlanta. So that's practically a home game for Georgia. Chase, I want you to speak on this game. Talk about a little bit about this Georgia defense. I know they've lost a lot, but man, they still got Kirby Smart leading the Tide. So, what you think about that?
No, I thought it was funny just when you said, tell us a little bit, and you started teaming me up on this really specific, hey, tell us about the long snapper room in UGA. I'm sorry, that was me. I was like, oh, man, I'm not prepared for this. Yeah, I think that here's what I'll say, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think it's warranted in the sense of I've got some concerns on how Georgia's program has looked since they won the national championship. A lot of people have went into the, and I'll simply put this: a lot of people have gone to the NFL. A lot of people on the defensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You got your best wide receiver transferring to an in-conference Alabama, and your quarterback was never something crazy. They've got good recruits. Like I'm not saying they're a bad football team.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, I want to know if they've got a little bit of relaxation that's crept into their program a little bit. They finally did it. And so did the Braves. The state of Georgia finally did it. And I think no matter how you look at it, that is going to play. You can't deny that feeling. There is going to be some relaxation that's going to creep in. And how much are they willing to fight that? Here's what I want to say. Graham, I'm with you on the spread. I don't think that Georgia beats this team by 17 points. I think that Oregon, what I'm basing this on is that if y'all remember last year, they went into Ohio State and beat Ohio State. They can play a road game. That's never like that. That game is evidence that the moment is not too big for, in a sense, little old Oregon. They can never seem to put it all together, but I got some pretty high hopes for this game. Here's what I'll say. I'm going to go with Oregon. I'm going to say that they're going to repeat the upset simply for the reason I don't think that UGA is going to be as good as people think they're going to be. I think there's some relaxation. I think that they're going to I wonder how that's going to play out. So I'm going to go with Oregon. They're going to come to play. Could be wrong, but they did it last year. I think that Ohio State team's probably better than this Georgia team. Hampton, you got to spell out whose team you picking. What are you thinking? All you.
Oh, me. Well, I love the fact that tiebreaker, a lot of pressure. I love the fact, Chase, that you brought up that Oregon-Ohio State game from last year, because that was a real shocker across college football. It was week 2, I believe, and they go in there and they put a whooping on Ohio State. Very impressive win. One of the more impressive wins of the year. When we had our first podcast with Coach Hayes, I had a hot take. And my hot take was that Bo Nix, while not going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, not a Heisman frontrunner, I thought he was going to have a really solid year and a breakout year for him in his 4th year as a quarterback. Change of scenery was going to do him good. Duncan thinks so too. And I thought with better weapons around him and a better O-line that he would thrive, because he has all the tools. We've all seen him run around like a chicken with his head cut off. The athleticism's off the charts. The arm is really good. What he lacks sometimes is the play within structure, the processing, going through progressions, and the touch on the ball, the touch and accuracy on the football. So I said that, and I said I'm not all the way ready to pick Oregon to upset Georgia because I need to do some homework. Well, guys, here's the homework I came up with. Y'all are my teachers. Here's my homework assignment. What will determine this game is the trenches on both sides of the ball, as it usually does in big boy football. It's very cliche, but it's very true. And so I did some research. Oregon is returning all 5 of their starting offensive linemen, one of them being an Outland Trophy watch list guy and potentially a draft or NFL draft pick next year. Okay. So they got continuity there. And we know what kind of lines Mario built at Oregon. The cupboard is not bare in that room. So I feel good about that versus that Georgia D-line who is returning Jalen Carter, who's probably one of, if not the best defensive lineman in the country. But the guys around him and behind him are unproven. Talented, yes. 5 stars, yes. But they don't have the experience playing at this level like they had last year with a Jordan Davis and a Trevon Walker. Now, I'm sure those guys rotated in, but they don't have the playing experience that they had last year on that defense that made them so special. So I chalk that up. Okay, Oregon might have the advantage there. Then I look at the D line. I've got a guy named Brandon Shoreless, who's a D tackle, might be a day one pick in the NFL draft that they feel really good about. They got an influx of transfers from Nebraska and a couple other programs to add some experience and talent into that room. And then you pair the two linebackers they have that Graham talked about, Justin Flo and Noah Sewell, who are as good of a duo as you're going to find in college football. They match up really well on what Georgia wants to do best, which is pound the rock. Okay. And Georgia doesn't have an outside threat at wide receivers that's really going to stretch them vertically. Like Graham said, they're predicated on that tight end room. Now, they got some dudes at tight end. Let's not confuse that. Brock Bowers is a freak. Darnell Washington's a really good blocker. And Ari Gilbert is talented, but very unproven. But I look at the matchup, and I feel like Oregon kind of has an advantage, or it's a push at those two positions. And I think I'm expecting a leap from Bo Nix. And I think Dan Lanning is going to have his boys ready to play. What Chase said about the lack of leadership and maybe a little bit complacency at Georgia, I think that may be a thing. Just like you saw at Alabama in 2021, a very senior-laden team leaves in 2020, and Georgia lost 15 players to the draft. Put me down. Oregon is beating Georgia week 1. I'm calling it now. May be dead wrong. Of course we might be. But I'm going out on a limb. I do think that they're going to get the job done and send ripples across the college football landscape after beating Georgia in week 1. Any more thoughts on that game, gentlemen? Chase, what you got?
Only to lose to Stanford later in the season and ruin
now
their
that is
playoff hopes.
Very accurate. That
Yeah.
is very
Hey, if Scott
very
Frost
accurate.
is still losing one possession games, Oregon will still have 2 ugly losses that will take them out of the conversation.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, hey, new regime, you got Lanning coming in. Hey, what if you turn that? Hey, boys, we just went into Georgia, like we went into Ohio State last year. How are we going to set the tone this year? How are things going to change? How are we going to, call us to something more?
Yeah.
I don't know if that conversation is happening in the Georgia locker room. But again, I think with it being week 1, it's hard to – you don't see that. That's what we're waiting to see. Graham, what do you think? Kind of closing thoughts.
Yeah, I'll close out. I think y'all are, both, heading in the right direction. With Dan Lanning coming from Georgia, I think that he's going to have Oregon more prepared than other teams would be in that position. For a first game as a head coach, I couldn't think of probably a tougher matchup than Dan Lanning having to go up against the guys that he coached, with and against. And so,
all their weaknesses too, though.
Yeah,
great point. Great point, Chase.
That's definitely true. But it's still his first game, and this Oregon team, they've played together, but not with Dan Lanning at the helm just yet. If this was a week 2 game, I would probably love the upside of Oregon winning this one too. But week 1, this Georgia team has played with these coaches, with these players. Oregon, they haven't been hit in the mouth just yet as a unit. So that's why I'm kind of taking Georgia. But hey, one of us or 2 of us is going to be right. So at least it's not a clean sweep of the board right there.
Yeah, I like the disagreement. I like the differing views, and the point you made about feeling better in week 2. You could say I feel better about it being week 1 because they kind of are catching Georgia a little bit by surprise. So it just it can work for and against them, and I cannot wait to see how it plays out on 2:30 Saturday afternoon. Now let's move into the next game that we have on the docket. Florida hosting the Utah Utes. The spread on this game is Utah -3, so they're favored by 3 going into the Swamp. Chase, what is your key to the game, and who are you picking to ultimately win it? Is Billy Napier going to get his first win in his first career game as the Gators head coach?
As much as I'd love to have a great conversation here, and even like how I feel like Florida has a guy at the helm, I've heard a lot of really good things about this Utah program and the direction that they're heading. I think that they showed, even when they played Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. I'm going to keep this really short and simple and just say that there's just got to – I'm going to rely on. There's got to be a moment where Utah says, we went to the Rose Bowl last year and we're supposed to be heading in that direction. We can't let a Florida team beat us. We can't let a team who just got a new head coach because of not like he lost them to the NFL. They just got a new coach. We can't. It should be disgraceful that they're only a 3-point favorite. I know they're going into Gainesville, but I'm going to take Utah right here. I'm excited to see if they're going to be that team in the Pac-12 that's ready to take over. I'd love to see some really good games coming out of not just USC getting better, but hey, Utah versus Oregon is going to be a game. I want to get back to that. Maybe that I'm a little bit too hopeful, but that's my reasoning behind. I think they just simply have the better team, the better direction. They're building on something. I think that for Florida, it's going to take them a little bit. I think even for Napier, you might know, again, when it comes to legacy building a program, you almost might want to lose this game so that you don't set the expectations too high. Graham, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think that honestly, there's lots of disrespect going towards Utah. I think this is 100% a hype game for Florida, and I think that's why the line is so close. Is that Florida's fans are so excited about Billy Napier taking over the helm and what he did at Louisiana Lafayette, and him able to translate that over to Florida. But at Louisiana Lafayette, when you're playing fairly bad teams every couple weeks in the Sun Belt, there's no shame or hatred going out to the Sun Belt, but there are some teams that are really bad at football there. Playing this Utah team, Kyle Whittingham is a coach that is going to have his guys disciplined, and that translates really well to this the atmosphere in the swamp. Utah is going to be one of those teams. They know what they're going to do. They're going to line up. They're going to hit you in the mouth, and if you can't take it for 4 quarters, you're going to lose. And I think that's how this game's going to go. I'm just really surprised that it is at such a small spread. Like the margin of 3 points is, I mean, that's really low to me. And I think the odds are, if you're betting, it's like minus 140 for Utah and like plus 118 for Florida, which definitely gives the favorites to Utah, but that's too close of a pick 'em for me to really understand why. I mean, I can see why some people might think Florida with, AR-15 returning and Billy Napier coming in, first game under the new helm, but this Utah team is, they're still good. They played, they got outplayed at some points in that Rose Bowl. I mean, Ohio State, golly, torched them for everything they were worth, but I think this Utah team is experienced. They have had success. I think they return 8 guys on the offense, 8 starters and 5 starters on the defense. So they're going to have some new guys that they have to mix in there, but the system's still the same. And we've talked about this in the past, that how important that is to know what your assignment is and how you're going to be there. So I've got Utah. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but it's going to be a whole lot more than 3 points. I mean, it's at least double digits. Hampton, what do you think?
If this game were played at a neutral site, the line's at least 9 or 10, in my opinion. I think if you look at these teams on paper, Utah is clearly better. You kind of mentioned it, Graham. Cam Rising coming back at quarterback. You got Tavion Thomas, their leading rusher, back from last year. Then on defense, you've got Clark Phillips III, Cole Bishop, Mohamed Diabate, and lineman Junior Tafuna. They're losing Devin Lloyd, really good linebacker, middle linebacker for them last year. They got to replace him, but there's a lot of talent on that team. I think they got a really good offensive line, and they know who they are. And knowing who you are and having an identity to be smash mouth, physical football, that travels on the road, okay? When your passing attack may not travel, run the ball and being physical, that travels. And I think having Cam Rising back, he's experienced. He's going to be able to manage the conditions at the Swamp, the noise, even though I do think that is going to play a huge factor because that is one of the most difficult stadiums to play in. I just don't think Florida is talented enough right now to compete with this Utah team and ultimately win, especially on the offensive and defensive line. They lack depth, which we talked about in our SEC East preview show a couple days back. On defense, they've got Brenton Cox, they've got Ventrell Miller, Trey Dean. So they got some players there, but offensively, skill guys are lacking. And the only way they win this game, in my opinion, is if Anthony Richardson turns into Superman and he fully realizes his potential that he flashed at times last year. And when I'm talking about he flashed at times, that was mainly against teams that weren't very good. So I'm going to have to go Utah here as well. I think they are just a better team. They're more experienced. And I think Billy Napier is going to suffer his first loss as a Florida Gators head coach. But that does not mean I don't believe in the future of the program and where it's going. It's a tough draw week one. So I'm with both of y'all, Utah all the way. Now let's go to our final matchup that we're going to preview, but not the final matchup that we're going to pick for the evening, FSU and LSU. This game is being played on Sunday night, I believe at 6:30. So we're going to be able to do our fantasy draft and watch this at the same time. And Florida State is going in as dogs, 3-point dogs. I think LSU is favored in this game, which I'm with you, Chase. I'm kind of surprised by that line.
Man, yeah.
And so I want to start with you on this one. What is your key to the game and who wins?
Brother, they're playing in. Are they playing in the Tiger Stadium?
They're playing in the Superdome, Mercedes-Benz or Caesars Superdome.
Caesars.
Excuse me. Yeah,
That's right.
Caesars.
Right. Nah, man, you guys know that. Honestly, I wish they would almost stop doing this, like Georgia playing in Atlanta, and you've got LSU playing in New Orleans. Like I get it, but again, it's like you're talking about things that might be taken away
Just
from
play at
college
home,
football.
play on campus.
Yeah. Like it's very clear that this is a home game. Even if you made them the away team, it's just not. Like I kind of get it, but by the same token, I kind of don't. It would be interesting if they played neutral site games. This is total side note. What if, because somebody's making big money there, it'd be interesting if players got a little bit of like, hey, if we're playing neutral site, here's our like union that's saying, hey, we're demanding 15% of the ticket sales. Now there'd be quick home games. Home at homes would be flying off the radar. I know that they've been trying to kind of correct that and play more home at homes. Here's what I'll say about this game. All that to say. I think that I'm probably going to be a part of. I think maybe there's some silent majority here, but it feels like the minority. I think that LSU is going to actually get better this year. I think that Brian Kelly brings a lot of stability that Ed Ogeron did not have. He did not bring that to the table. It was, what's up, Hampton?
He's an adult.
You could if you but he does not write letters back to Lou Holtz.
That he does not do. One character flaw.
We are just
and
naming
his southern
facts.
accent.
That's right.
And his southern accent.
Never said the man was perfect, but no, man. I just think that he brings a lot of stability to this program, and I honestly think that LSU just might be one of those programs that's like, hey, a 10-win season is maybe we get another national championship in the next 20 years. Are they going to be okay with having 10-win season? I just think that Brian Kelly brings that sort of format of, he might be able to get you there, not be able to win it. All that to say about this matchup, I don't know where we're really even getting any credibility from Florida State. I think that Norvell is going to be very quickly in the same spot that Scott Frost is in. If he does not win this game, is this the same thing that we had last year? They might be better. My thing is, and I'll say this, I wanted to say this with Florida, but I'll say this with Florida State, saying that it also applies with Florida. They will quit. They will quit if they start getting beat. I see them like if the other team is up by 14 points or 10 points, I think that they'll quit. And I see LSU kind of getting out ahead. I see Florida State struggling to get stuff started. I still don't know if they have a quarterback that's going to be trustworthy, ready to move that program forward. All that to say, I'm going LSU here. I think LSU, they might not show you a bunch of flash, but I think they're going to show you we've got players. The players have always been here. They need someone who's going to steer this ship. Might be slowly, but we're gonna win this game. I don't know, 21-14. Nothing crazy. We're gonna walk out with a dub. Hampton, what are you thinking? What do you think about this game?
I would love to go into a big deep dive breakdown about this game, but the Tigers are going to win this game. They're more talented on the outside and perimeter with Keishawn Butte, Brian Thomas, good running backs, and the kind of like the Oregon-Georgia game. It's going to come down to the trenches. I like their offensive line over Florida State's defensive line, and I think it's the same way with Florida State's O-line. I don't think it's going to be able to handle Mason Smith of the LSU DL and a couple other players they got, B.J. Ojolari. They got a couple linebackers that they feel really good about. Secondary maybe could be had from what I've heard. In camp, they don't feel great about that spot, but I don't think Florida State, with Jordan Travis at the helm, is the team to capitalize on that weakness. So I'd take LSU by about, I'd say 14 to 17 points. I think they win comfortably, and it could be even more if Shane Daniels comes out and has a really impressive debut as the Tigers quarterback. Graham, what are your thoughts on the game, man? And you can close us out of the breakdown portion of the show.
Yeah, I think that my thoughts, that makes sense. I think my thoughts. It's true, though, because I think them up here.
That's good. That's good.
This game is more important for Brian Kelly than it is for Jay Norvell or Mike Norvell. Jay Norvell's a different coach. Mike Norvell.
Okay.
And y'all are probably thinking, we just talked about, Mike Norvell on the hot seat. If Brian Kelly comes to LSU, goes to New Orleans, where the last time they played there, they were national champions. If they go to New Orleans and lose to Florida State, there's going to be a lot of regret among LSU's fan base, among their boosters, and among that staff. I think this game is so important for LSU because this sets the trend for this whole year. And so I think that this game is more important for LSU to win than it is for Florida State. I think the difference in the game is going to be decided in the first half. I think by halftime we're going to know who's going to win. Because, Chase, like you said, Florida State will quit on you. If they're getting beat, they'll quit on you.
Mm-hmm.
But Florida State did start off pretty hot against Duquesne this past weekend, up like 27-0 or 20-0. So I think Florida State can get started fast. They've had a game of experience under the belt. LSU has not under that new staff. I think this game is a whole lot closer than Hampton thinks. I think it's going to be a 3-point game.
Oh.
But I think the team that is leading at half is going to win. If LSU starts off fast, give me LSU. Florida State starts off fast, give me Florida State. But I think that LSU is just going to have that edge. They're going to have that 3-point advantage. So give me LSU by 3 in the Caesars, sport book, Superdome, whatever it is.
Superdome. Super duper dome.
Yeah, super duper dome. Give me LSU in a close one.
Okay, well, Graham, I was worried there for a minute that you were going to straddle the fence and say whoever starts out the best is going to win.
Hey, give me the team that's winning at the end of the game. Whoever's got the highest points of the game.
Whoever has the most points at the end of the game.
Never
I'm
been
taking that team. Good breakdown, Graham, and good breakdown, Chase, on all three of those games. And before we get out of here tonight, we're going to do a rapid-fire portion where we predict 3 other marquee games for the weekend and kind of give who we think is going to win on those. So really quick, like I said, we're recording on Wednesday night. So Backyard Brawl tomorrow night. Graham, I'll go to you first. Real quick, who wins?
I got Pitt. I think they return a lot of starters on defense. Playing at home, give me Pitt.
Pitt. Chase?
No precedent other than Pitt should win this game. I'm going to go with West Virginia because my boy Neil Brown. I'm hoping that he wins this game. It might be his last season in West Virginia if he doesn't win this game. Just might start the season off wrong. So be a big win for them going West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Just means
I'm
more.
with you. Just means more. I'm with you. Country roads take me home, the place that I belong. West Virginia will win this game. Start off the year with a big performance from JT Daniels at the quarterback position. So,
hey,
Chase
we'll finally
and I,
see him.
Yeah, we will. We'll finally
We've never
see
really
him.
seen him, right?
Other than 2020 for about 4 or 5 games. No, we have not. So,
Jake Daniels versus Keaton Slovis, 2 former USC quarterbacks.
yes.
Taking on a new school.
And let me add this fact too. Graham Harrell, now the offensive coordinator at West Virginia, and coached JT when he showed a lot of promise at USC. I'm going to be very interested to see their dynamic. Next game, we have Cincinnati traveling to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Chase, who you got?
Give me Arkansas. I feel like Arkansas is building something. Cincinnati lost a lot of leadership. I think they're going to have to reclaim their identity. I think they got the coach to do it. It's just going to come with a little bit of growing pains. Graham, who do you got?
Arkansas, too. They're returning lots on offense and defense. And both coaching, both their coordinators, me and Ham talked about that. They're replacing a lot, but I still expect them to fight. So I'll take Arkansas. Hampton?
Woo pig, baby. Give me Arkansas. It's a sweep across the board. I think they're the more talented team. And like we mentioned on this pod before, we believe they're the second best team in the SEC West and the third best in the entire SEC. So I think they're going to prove that on Saturday. And our final game that we're going to predict, Notre Dame traveling to Ohio State. Graham, I'll start with you on this one, man. Does Notre Dame pull the upset in the first year of Marcus Freeman at the helm, or is Ohio State too much?
Ohio State's too much. I think they got probably the best offense in college football. C.J. Stroud might win the Heisman this year. So I'm got Ohio State big, but that's the way the bet line has it. So I think they're going to be right. Give me Ohio State at home. Chase?
I think I'm right there with you, Graham. I think that Notre Dame, and I know that Kyle Edwards, when he hears this, is not going to be happy with this. I think Notre Dame has consistently showed that they can get to the big game and then just not show up for it. I think this is another. They're playing one of the big four, and they just get it shows that one team has 5 stars. Notre Dame is trying to turn 3 stars into playable guys. I know that they've had. I want to just throw this in there. Notre Dame has had some injuries. I even think to the wide receiver room, and I think they're going to be really thin this whole season. And I feel for them. I think Marcus Freeman's going to be a good coach. I really hope that people kind of keep this energy about him, even walking out of Ohio State maybe with a bad loss. What do you think, Hampton?
I'm with you. Great point about the injury, because I know their wide receiver, I believe he's number 3. My last name might be Anderson. I can't remember off the top of my head. Really talented player. I liked what I saw from him last year in the few games of Notre Dame I watched. So big loss for them. They've got Tyler Buchner, I believe, is their quarterback this year, named him the starter. Chris Tyree at running back, who's a home run threat. Ohio State's too much. They got too much talent with Stroud, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Travion Henderson at running back, Marvin Harrison Jr., JT Tuimaluau at defensive line, a couple other studs along that front. I think they're just too talented and too much for Notre Dame. But I will push back a little bit on your assertion that they don't show up in big games. I think it's just that sometimes they just like the talent. I don't know if it's that they don't show up and they kind of crumble, because Notre Dame's been very successful in the past 5 years. I mean, they're 44-7. They play a pretty tough schedule as far as like opponents. Now, they can't control how good their opponent is, but I don't think they go out and seek a powder puff schedule. I mean, when they played the ACC schedule, they made it to the college football playoff. I mean, they beat They beat Notre Dame, or beat Clemson, and then Clemson beat them, but they still got in the playoff. Yeah, I got a little turned around there. But I've been really impressed with what Brian Kelly did there, and I think Marcus Freeman is going to do the same thing. And it's just going to be too much in week one to overcome that talent gap at Ohio State. But I like Billy Napier. I'm excited about the direction that he has them on. Chase, you got anything else?
You just said Billy Napier. Dude, you're all over the place, brother. You're talking about Notre Dame.
No, I said like Billy Napier. I think Marcus Freeman has it on the right trajectory. I might have misspoke, so I appreciate you correcting me. I appreciate you correcting me.
I didn't know who went. You can make mistakes. It's okay.
Absolutely. Right. Hey, we're all sinners.
Hey, not everybody's perfect like Jesus and Tua.
What a segue with the Jesus and Tua thing, because I think that will wrap it up for our week one preview show. Guys, it was an honor to talk a little college football with you guys and actually talk about some games that matter this weekend. Not saying the ones last week didn't, but we've got some marquee matchups, and from Thursday night to Monday night, it's going to be football on my TV all night long, all day long. Cannot wait. And if this is your first time listening to Pigskin Cafe, we're glad you found us, and we would love for you to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and be sure to tell your friends and everyone you know. We put out a Tua video. Good segue by Chase. Put out a Tua video kind of defending him and the situation he's been put in the past couple of years in Miami, while he's poised to break out in year 3. And we've been overwhelmed with the support we've received from that. And so we really appreciate that and hope you continue to follow along with us all year as we cover both NFL and college football. And be sure to follow us on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at the Pigskin Cafe, and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to get a podcast version of the show. The Pigskin Cafe is closed for now, but until next time, when we're recapping week 1 and looking forward to week 2, chew on that.